let's talk about waifus. Waifus are well known for being the females that from animes that we all like, whether this be Rin, Jolene, Lisa, Mikasa, and just about any other female that everyone tends to simp over. But let's talk about one we all love. The one that nobody hates except some critics who claim there's no character development, but they're wrong. It is Speedwagon. Robert E.O. Speedwagon. A fan favorite JoJo Bizarre Adventure character from Phantom Blood. And fun fact, he is not my favorite Phantom Blood character. Yeah, I know it's hyping him up. I do like him, but I like Jonathan and Dio more, but whatever. The point is, what if Speedwagon learned hamon? Uh, begin the video. So we start off with Phantom Blood, and if you remember, Speedwagon had that whole thing where he wanted to learn hamon to help Jonathan. Will couldn't awaken that hamon by hitting his pressure points, but instead we're gonna say Speedwagon learns hamon. As for how, we'll kind of give it one of those things where Speedwagon can't awaken it, and it's one of those things where it has to be awoken from a moment. As for the moment I'm going to use, I'm going to say Speedwagon awakens hamon once he gets hit in the whole thing. Like, he gets hit and he kind of awakens his hamon right there. Like, that's what most people do. Kind of an example. But I'm not going to do that. Even though I was saying I was, but that's what I was trying to fake you out, fools. But in all actuality, Speedwagon awakens his hamon after Will's death. Will dies and Speedwagon gets a rage amp. He gives most of his hamon to Jonathan, but however he gives some of it to Speedwagon. That kind of it wouldn't we don't need to give too much to Speedwagon, because if you gave more to Speedwagon, Will more than likely, like if he gives it all to Speedwagon, Dio more than likely kills Jonathan without the hamon of Will. So yeah, it's hard to say how Will, like giving most of his hamon to Speedwagon, would change the story if that's the case. So yeah, Speedwagon gets like I guess some type of few percentage, like a 10 to 15%, and maybe he can fight the two. Like if you remember, like one of them lost to Jonathan, then there was another one. Maybe Speedwagon could fight him and some vampire zombie minions to stall some time for Jonathan to fight Dio and all that. That fight would mostly go the same, but the only change would be that Speedwagon's not really there to do his whole commentary. He's just there to hold back Dio's minions from interfering. So that whole thing, like that's gonna go the same. But however, Speedwagon would go on the ship. I think you all know where I'm going with this one. Speedwagon goes on the ship because he doesn't really like in the original. He didn't go because he thought he'd hold them back. Like I think he thought it was too weak or something. But in this timeline, he feels confident that he can protect Jonathan, especially after Will's death, and possibly Dyer if he still dies. It depends on you. I'm just gonna say, for the sake of the story, Dyer's death still does happen. But Speedwagon goes, and Dio's invasion is gonna be a lot harder. Speedwagon's there with his hamon, and Speedwagon's hamon would more than likely be a healing type, meaning that Jonathan's wounds wouldn't be bad and he'd heal him back up, and meaning Jonathan might actually escape alive. I'm going to say he does. As for Dio, and a lot of these people, to make this original, Dio gets out of the ship alive. Now I know you're gonna be like, that's so unrealistic, unsub, dislike, everything. You can't dislike bomb me anymore because for starters, YouTube removed the dislike button. But even so, Speedwagon is able to save Jonathan, and Dio escapes, having like one of his minions come aboard, and he steals away on some type of escape boat, like they have an extra boat or something. Speedwagon and Jonathan and Arena get Lisa, and those four escape out of the coffin together. Everything like that. It all happens. Phantom Blood ends with a lot happier of an ending, you could say, with Jonathan not dying, but Dio is able to escape alive. We'll see how this changes the future parts. Let's go over to part 2, where the whole thing with George II still happens, and he still dies. I had assumed Jonathan would lack on hamon. Like, I think I stressed this out in the Dio video, but however, Speedwagon would probably help him. I'd assume Jonathan would help Speedwagon run the Speedwagon Foundation, though. So, he's gonna help him run the Speedwagon Foundation, like as a second command. I don't know, something like that. He might move to America to help him with Arena. Jonathan would probably keep his hamon training, but may kind of slack off, especially after his son's death. Because I assume George II still does die. It seems very out of character for Jonathan to force his son to do something like hamon. Like, if he's interested in it, then possibly. If he's not interested in it, then I don't get what the point of teaching him if he's not into it. Jonathan doesn't seem like the kind of dad who would force your own child to do something they don't want to do. I think that'd be out of character for someone like Jonathan, so I'm going to say he wouldn't. If George II dies and Jonathan feels guilty about it, he may end up killing the guy instead of Lisa, but I still think she would. She'd still get banished from the Joestar family, but Jonathan would forgive her, not blaming her for the accident. And Joseph still happens. Would Joseph be raised to be a gentleman? That's a 50-50 here. Now, on one hand, he might, and he may be like a Jonathan type character, but on the other hand, maybe the gentleman thing doesn't get to Joseph, and Joseph kind of stays the same. I'm going to say that it's a mixture. Like, Joseph still acts the way he is, but he's a little more respectable. Like, he can respect people more. Kind of like what he did, like, his whole character arc, but it's a lot earlier and he doesn't get character development. So he does have some respect, but he's still kind of the same, like how he is. We get the whole thing with Smokey and all that. Jonathan may find out about Straightso, but I would assume him and Speedwagon would be out, and those two would be assumed to be dead and would be captured by the Nazis, like how the original timeline with Speedwagon. But they would probably know Jonathan and Speedwagon know hamon with Santana, so they'll lay low and wait till Joseph arrives. Joseph still fights Straightso, and Joseph still does all his stuff, and we get to Santana and Joseph. That whole thing still goes the same. Maybe Jonathan and Speedwagon might help a bit. Stroheim still does the suicide bomb thing, and yeah, they still meet Caesar, but however, Caesar probably wouldn't be as big as a jerk to Joseph because if you remember Caesar, the main reason he was a jerk was that Joseph didn't know his family bloodline. He might actually know his family bloodline this time around. They could actually help the Zappellis in this timeline as well. I'm going to say for the sake of the story they don't, but it is a possibility that Jonathan and Speedwagon would help the Zappellis' life for the better, but we're just going to say for the sake of the story, no. But Caesar still kind of acts the way he is, kind of being cocky and all that. We get Joseph and Caesar's little conflict. Jonathan and Speedwagon might actually stop it this time, and they're kind of both good mentors. We still get to meet Lisa, who I would assume would be better at hamon than Speedwagon and Jonathan, mainly due to the fact that they wouldn't have enough time with hamon, especially the fact that Jonathan was kind of depressed after his son's death, and Speedwagon's kind of got his Speedwagon Foundation company. So I would say Lisa's stronger, but Jonathan and Speedwagon are stronger than Joseph and Caesar when it comes to hamon. I don't think they would have to do the training, like the big hole and all that. As for Pillarman fight alone, kind of skipped over that because that happened before Lisa crap. Uh, I do assume like there could be some type of battle. In fact, a Pillarman could actually get killed. I still think they might put the rings on Joseph. I feel like maybe ACDC or Wamu, one of those two would just put a ring on Jonathan and the other one puts one on Joseph. Or they'd both put one on Joseph or both on Jonathan. I'm going to say they're going to put one on each one. Wamu picks Jonathan, AC/DC picks Joseph. So what changes next? I mean, I already name dropped the Lisa stuff. Hamon training for Joseph and Caesar goes the same, and Jonathan and Speedwagon would do their own Hamon training together. First AC/DC fight goes the same. I still assume it would be Joseph's fight, but it is possible Speedwagon or Jonathan could be involved with it. Maybe those two are involved in a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 instead. Joseph still gets his ring back. Susie Q is still possessed by, I think her name was Susie Q. I don't remember. She's still possessed by, that one AC/DC. Joseph and Caesar still do their team up. And as for Cars versus Stroheim, the rematch where Stroheim actually comes back as a cyborg, it would be unique to see how that goes. Jonathan and Speedwagon are here, so I think those two can do some help. And now we go to the Wamu fight. The first Wamu fight, to be more specific. There's like two of them. The first one's with Caesar, and the second one was with Joseph. Jonathan, whose ring is on Wamu, is going to help Caesar. Speedwagon would also come in, and I do assume Joseph and Lisa might come along this time. I feel like the whole group would tag along, and if this is the case, I feel like we would lose two of them, and that's like the two random other hormone training guys. Like, I kind of forgot about them. Those two will die, and Caesar might actually not die. Him and Speedwagon, I would assume, would be more long range when it comes to their hormone, and Joseph and Jonathan are more close, with Lisa kind of being a mixture of both. It would be interesting to see how that would go. But however, a big change would be the fact that Caesar does not turn into a pancake, most likely. As for what I mean is, Caesar might actually not die, and I'm going to say he doesn't because they're probably going to do most of the work together. If someone were to die, like from those five, there's a more likely chance it'd probably be Jonathan or Joseph. But it'd probably be Jonathan most likely because Joseph's the main character in plot armor and you can't just kill him off. But the point is, Caesar's actually not going to die. I don't think Jonathan would die either, and they'd all make it out alive in this fight. And they actually would kill Wamu a lot faster. Wamu would say that he respects them and gives Jonathan the ring, meaning it's just Cars, and now they're all going to have to fight Cars. How do they do against Cars? Well, for starters, Cars short range fights, everyone else long range fights. It's an easy win. But however, let's say Cars is able to get the ultimate life form. How does it change now? I assume it would go like the rest. Joseph and Stroheim would go together. Maybe Jonathan or Speedwagon could also tag along. And Joseph may still do his whole volcano launch with Cars. Jonathan's kind of there to help Joseph. Lisa still survives. Caesar would also survive this encounter, assuming he doesn't tag along, which I doubt he would. And everything would kind of go the same at that point, with Jonathan and Speedwagon probably tagging along. Joseph still launches himself up to space with Cars, but however, Joseph isn't launched up into space, and because of dumb luck and plot armor, Joseph survives the fall, and he is still alive, miraculously. Would be interesting to see how Jonathan reacts to the funeral. After seeing his son die, now he has to see his grandson die, apparently, but he isn't. Imagine how Caesar would react, that Joseph lied to him, basically. He'd probably punch him or something. Speedwagon would also be happy. Everything would be happy, and I don't think Speedwagon would actually die this timeline. In the original timeline, he died in like the 1950s or 60s to my knowledge because of a heart attack. He might actually not because of hormone training, and I think him and Jonathan would keep up their hormone training. Caesar's alive, meaning he'd keep up his hormone training, and I could see him with a family of his own. As for Dio, yep, I had to bring it up somehow. Dio takes the body of Santana instead. As for why, he has these options. He can go after Jonathan, who's probably far better with hormone now, especially the fact that he's now back into training. He can go after Joseph, who is probably going to be training with hormone in this timeline, or he can go after someone else. If he hears about the whole thing with the Pillarmen, then he can go after Santana. Santana is still frozen solid as a rock, I assume. Dio can use his minions. Once that happens, his minions could sneak him across, take Santana's body, and it's game set. Dio now has Santana's body. What will change for part 3? So with part 3, Jotaro... Okay, the question is, do the Joestars have stands still? Well, I mean, Dio with Santana's body and not Jonathan's. What would change? Well, Speedwagon still does his homo training. Jonathan still does his homo training. Caesar still does his homo training. Joseph probably still does his homo training because he has those three to push him. And Lisa might actually, meaning they're going to be involved with the story. In fact, I think Caesar would have a granddaughter. Why, a granddaughter? Another female Super Crusaders. That'd be cool. Why? Because, why not? I had Kakuin have a son. I'm gonna have Caesar have a granddaughter. Just let me be happy for once. Her name is Rosanna, because it was the first female name I could think of. You can name her whatever you want. I'll call her Rosanna, because that kind of sounds cool and cute. But they still they still have their interaction with Jotaro. As for stands, we'll just make up a plot armor excuse. We'll just say stands came in out of nowhere. I assume there would be some type of plot armor, so they get their stands. Jonathan would get a stand, Speedwagon would get a stand, and Caesar would. Now the stands. Same with Rosanna and Lisa. I would assume 4 out of the 5 of them would just have Hermit Purple. In fact, Jonathan actually had Hermit Purple. Technically, it was an unnamed stand, but it was basically a better version of Hermit Purple. I could see them having their own version to make it unique. Maybe Jonathan could have some type of hamon version of Tusk, or maybe Speedwagon could have a healing stand, like something similar to Gold Experience. Or Caesar could probably have, I would assume he could have like a water bubble version of Hermit Purple. Rosanna I could see having a watery stand, kind of like Geb or Aqua Necklace, assumedly, or like a humanoid version of it that can punch. Lisa would also have Hermit Purple, but maybe her version could be like based off her scarf, like that one girl from part 4 with the crazy long hair. If anyone can remind me of her name, I would be grateful about that. And that would that'd be interesting. I think Jotaro would also learn Hamon. Same with Kakuin. Yeah, Kakuin would still get encountered. As for everything else, they would probably still go, but Dio would probably still send his minions. He'd find a new way to track down the Joestars. Would he still have a stand? Yep, he'd still have the world, but now he's a Pillarman body, which would make him a lot more threatening. And what else would happen is the question you're going at. Well, so they probably would be going somewhere for Hamon training, but however Dio would know about it. In fact, they get their own stands from a different way, meaning Holly wouldn't get a stand. So what would change? Well, Holly doesn't get her stand, meaning that they actually have a faster time. Like, they don't have to go as fast. There's no kind of beat the clock. They can just take their time, meaning that they can train the group on Hamon. But however, if Dio finds out, he'll try to get Tower of Grey to stop it, which could still happen, and they could still meet Polnareff. I could assume Avdol would also learn Hamon in advance. As a side note, maybe Joseph and Caesar and Jonathan and Speedwagon already know about him, same with Lisa, and they've taught him Hamon a little bit. The same with Rosanna. I could see Jotaro and Kakuin and Polnareff them being taught Hamon together, but it wouldn't be a lot. It'd probably be like small little Hamon training bits and pieces. Like we could see kind of like the Joseph Caesar montage, kind of like a time skip of Hamon training. We can kind of see how they would do, like Hamon Star Platinum, Hamon Hierophant Green, Hamon Silver Cherry would look pretty cool, not gonna lie. And as for arcs, they probably just like go to where they trained in the original timeline, which I think was Rome or something. I don't know. But then after that, they'd probably just go into Egypt. And that could just lead to the bizarre adventure still happening. In fact, they could probably encounter more stands because of the time of Rome. They could be more enemies to go after them. But however, their hamon will probably be useful enough to go through those enemies. As for battles, I could assume there would be a lot of changes. Like, for example, Emperor and, what was his name? Hangman, Holers and J Gala, aka. I can see more characters being involved. Caesar could be involved. Rosanna could be involved. Uh, whatever the heck, uh, Jonathan and Speedwagon could. In fact, Abdal's injury may just get him healed and he may just come back. Or maybe we could just nerf Speedwagon's ability to he can't bring back the dead. Kind of like how Josuke's stand is. Because if you kind of make a healing stand that can bring back the dead, it'd be just too busted. So, he may actually. Speedwagon may actually not be able to do that. Everything else could probably do the same, I guess. Like, some of the earlier arcs could also not really change. Other arcs that would change. Like, small changes of arcs, for example, if you're wondering. Well, Hamon being here is just a much faster breeze. Characters like Nodal or that kind of stuff, like group fights, are a lot faster with Hamon. But not really only Hamon, but like Hermit Purple. If Jonathan uses his version of Hermit Purple, or like I'm assuming Jonathan is Speedwagon, Stance could also have a Hermit Purple similar ability. Same with Caesar and Lisa. If they can like figure out where Nodal's location is, it'd just be a faster end. Oingo Boingo Brothers can also be in a similar case. I'm gonna kind of skip like the first half of the story, but like the later half, Anubis would be a unique fight. Kind of see how someone like Jonathan versus Joseph, or Jotaro versus Jonathan, or Jotaro versus Joseph, especially the fact that they're still gonna be looking young. Like imagine that kind of dream matches we could get out of that. Uh, Anubis could just be like that kind of fight. And Lessie and Mariah, don't know how those would go. Would be unique to see where those kind of fights would lead to. Uh, Other stuff, like a lot of the later game fights, I'm just gonna only cover those because I'm not really into covering the early game because that would just take too long. But yeah, a lot of arcs would either go the same or just go faster. But let's just go to the main stuff. Let's say we finally made it to Dio's castle. What changes? Well, for starters, we need to kind of see who gets taken by younger Darby and who's going to stay to fight Vanilla Ice. I'm going to say for the sake of the story, young Darby takes Jotaro, Kakuin, and Joseph, obviously. They'll also take Rosanna and Jonathan, and Lisa. Just going to throw those six out. They're going to be taken by younger Darby, meaning that Polnareff, Kakuin, not Kakuin, but Abdul and Iggy, they're still there. And you also have Caesar and Speedwagon, who's also tagged along to kind of help with the momentum of that kind of battle with Vanilla Ice. As for what happens, I feel like Abdal's death is just kind of unpreventable, meaning he's still going to die, unfortunately. As for other stuff, Caesar and Speedwagon, Polnareff and Iggy, they just stop him because of their hamon. Well, I mean, not Iggy's case, because I don't think dogs learn hamon, and even if they did, they never got the chance to probably train Iggy with hamon. That whole thing just goes a lot smoother without Iggy dying, more likely. As for Dio, uh, with that being said, time stop's kind of a threat, and it's pretty busted. He could probably get the whole night fight, and I feel like Caesar or Speedwagon would die. I feel like those two would end up dying to kind of figure out the world's ability in the spot of Kakuin. I feel like Speedwagon would more than likely do it, or Caesar. Caesar probably does it. Speedwagon goes to heal him, but Dio figures out. Or maybe it could be something like Speedwagon, like Caesar does the 20-meter Emerald Splash, but instead with hamon bubbles, and you could have Kakuin or Speedwagon and Joseph kind of help along, Rosanna as well, and they can just kind of distract. Uh, Whoever does get blasted in the water tower could actually survive, unless it's Speedwagon, because I assume he may not have a stand that could heal himself, kind of like Crazy Diamond, to kind of give him that registration of that he might actually die. And I think he probably might die here. Caesar would also die as well. I think that Kakuin and Rosanna could also help Jotaro later on. Uh, Jonathan would probably actually die as well. Jonathan, Joseph, and Jotaro would fight against Dio together. I feel like Jotaro would do the hard stop thing, and once Polnareff stops it, Iggy, Kakuin, and Rosanna also come along to help. And that whole thing also just goes the same. They can't really do much. Dio just stops time and knocks them all out. He may kill one, but I doubt he would. If he did, it would probably be Iggy. As for other stuff, that's kind of all the changes. Joseph would more than likely still survive. If he still does that whole death thing, he'd probably just come back to life like in the original. Kakuin also survives in this timeline because he's my favorite. Iggy survives too because Hamon's just that overpowered that Iggy just needs to do nothing in the Vanilla Ice stuff. But the other reason Kakuin survives is because I feel like someone else would probably be willing to take his spot, or I I don't know. I don't think he would die, and someone else would just take his spot. Rosanna wouldn't die because Caesar would probably protect his granddaughter too much. As for Lisa, she might die against Dio. That's a debatable one. It honestly just depends on you. But even if she does survive, I don't think she would be involved with the future. So yeah, that's kind of all the changes at that point. A lot of changes, but at the same time, not many. I do think Caesar could actually survive, though. That is actually a possibility, so I think he could. The more I think about it, I think he might actually, so I think Lisa might die and Caesar would survive the more I think about it, so I might trade it out the more I think about it. You know what? I'll trade it out. Screw it. I don't know. That felt unnecessary, but I'm just gonna trade it out because I think Caesar might survive instead of Lisa. Hamon really does a lot of training, and Lisa could just probably make more sense to die over Caesar here. I feel like she'd probably be the type to reveal the world alongside Speedwagon. They could reveal the world's abilities together. Jonathan could probably die so Joseph and Jotaro could get the perfect opportunity to get some type of moment. Like, maybe Dio ends up killing Jonathan so he can get power from the Joestar blood. Yeah, the story changes a lot after that. But don't worry, Part 3 had a lot of changes. Part 4 is going to be some big changes as well. So we go to Part 4, and oh my goodness, Part 4 may not happen. Because there's one thing you need to know. Josuke Higashikita's one of those characters where would he exist? Because you have Jonathan, who's been kind of helpful in Joseph's life, especially in the later years. So why would Joseph have an illegitimate son? And if Joseph still has Josuke, and Jonathan figures out, Jonathan would probably force Joseph to either move to Morio, or Jonathan would probably pay for Tomoko and Josuke to move to America. That's honestly what would happen. What would happen in Morio as a whole? Well, I would assume that maybe Jotaro could still go for investigating the arrows. Kakuin would also come. I think Rosanna would probably marry Kakuin around this time, mainly due to the fact that Kakuin seems like the more likely to have a family, meaning Tenma would exist, but he'd probably be under the Zappelli name, so that'd be nice. Kind of a Kakuin Zappelli love child thing. Uh, After that, we could honestly see some other big changes. Like, how would other characters go? Well, I don't Like, if we go into the bizarre 1999 summer, Koichi probably stays his life as a normal teenage boy, and Okuyasu and Keicho may get their stand arrow took by Jotaro and Kakyoin if they decide to travel to that point. Or, yeah. Joseph could also travel there too. Maybe he can use this Hermit Purple to figure out Keicho and Okuyasu have it, and they could also figure out Kira's dad is in possession of the arrow. Meaning they could still fight Kira and the Nijimura brothers. If they win or lose, I would honestly say they'd win. As for who would go, I think Jotaro, Kakyoin, and Joseph would all go together. Same with Caesar and Polnareff and Iggy. If you're wondering why I said Polnareff and Iggy, uh, here's the thing. In Part 5, I do not think that Polnareff and Iggy, like if they do go, Caesar would come along, and they may actually stop Diavolo. I'll say for the sake of the story, Iggy and Polnareff are in Italy, kind of for that whole thing, so they're going to be stuck in Italy. As for the rest of the story and all that, Polnareff kind of is in Italy with Iggy, but Caesar, Joseph, Kakyoin, and Jotaro are going together in Morio to kind of look for the arrows. Do they encounter other characters? They may encounter some enemies, and they could just replace how characters like Josuke and Okuyasu and Koichi and Rohan went against them. So yeah, maybe we could see Jotaro versus Cheap Trick, or Kakyoin versus the Rats, or Kakyoin versus that Puppet Kid. That could be pretty cool. Or the Lock Guy versus Joseph. Or we could see Caesar versus the long hair girl. Still forgot her name. Uh, we could see a lot of that kind of stuff where I could see it being unique battles and how they could work there, depending if they're still enemies. As for hunting down the arrows, yeah, they destroy Okuyasu and Keicho. As for Kira, I do think there's a possibility someone might die, but I do think they could stop him in time. I don't think no one might die, unless they keep their distance. I think at best, Hierophant Green and Caesar could just solo them. And same with Joseph. And Jotaro, we already have seen against Kira, a Jotaro Kira battle. So, yeah, I could say Kira ain't going to make it out of this fight alive, and he'll get destroyed a lot faster before he could get the chance to switch out to Kosaku. And if he had Bite the Dust, it would probably just be a lot faster, and I don't know. It would still end the way it does. Uh, I don't know how they would do against Sheer Heart Attack, though. That'd probably be like the only way to actually win against it. Like, if Kira were to summon Sheer Heart Attack to make an escape, I think that Jotaro and Kakyoin and Joseph and Caesar would honestly struggle against it. But yeah, minus from that, I think Kira could be defeated if they're up close against him. If he's using long range tactics like Stray Cat and Sheer Heart Attack, he ain't getting out of that fight. He's gonna lose. Those are kind of the whole thing. I don't see that happening. What would Josuke do? He'd probably either never exist, or he would exist in Morio, but Jonathan would never figure out. Like, he died 5 years after Josuke's birth, so it's possible, but then again, he's very iffy about that one. And, or he's just living it, or Jonathan does know about the illegitimate son, and because of that, Josuke now lives in America with Tomoko, and Joseph's forced to take care of her, whether he likes it or not. And Joseph's now actually kind of raising Josuke, if that's the case. Suzy Q might actually divorce him this time around. As for the invisible baby, I still think they'll find out about it. I don't really know how that would go. Maybe Tomoko and Joseph raise it together. Joseph and Tomoko, I guess, get married, and Susie's the one who gets divorced. Maybe Caesar decides to end up with her out of pity. I don't know. It's a weird scenario if we're going with that. Well, I'm gonna say it's best if Josuke doesn't exist, just because it just sounds super weird. Nothing against Josuke, I really like him, but in this kind of scenario, it's best for Josuke not to exist before the family just kind of falls apart. the Joestar family could actually get ruined because of that, but it's just a weird, it's just a weird mess. I don't want to talk about it. It's a weird mess. Now it is time to talk about part 5. How would that go? Well, who would go to Italy? Because Koichi's not really the here, because he's a normal kid living a normal life, and Jotaro wouldn't send a normal kid a normal life in there, plus he doesn't know Koichi. Who is going to Italy? I would assume Caesar. Caesar seems like the kind of guy who takes pride in his Italian nation, and if he knew about the son of Dio, it's hard to say. Caesar might actually kill him, but then again, he may not kill him. I don't know. It's just a very odd scenario. I think he might kill Jarno, but then again, he might not. I think Joseph would also bunk along with his bro. The two of them would go together to fight and meet Jarno. Would anyone else come? I doubt it. I feel like it'd just be Caesar and Joseph together. The two of them would kind of be bros hanging out. As for the meeting Jarno, I know there's no way Caesar and Joseph would fall for Jarno's tricks. And once Jarno tries to scam them, Joseph and Caesar would just scam back and would probably just take money from Jarno, kind of doing the Uno reverse. And as for other stuff, Jarno and Luca's encounter still happen. Joseph and Caesar, once Jarno sees him with their money, Joseph and Caesar kind of get a battle with Jarno. They're two crappy Hermit Purple stands versus goal experience. It's an easy one for Jarno. Maybe Joseph and Caesar win because of veteran experience plus hamon. They kind of tell Jarno to, hey, we're gonna go, just kind of sit down, we can talk. Also, if you're wondering why Jarno still exists, he wouldn't be a Joestar for obvious reasons. But then again, he still could actually go on a bizarre adventure. Because if you remember, Dio was adopted in the Joestar family. Dio got adopted in the family, meaning that he's still technically a Joestar. Not by birth, but by other legal reasons. So Jarno is still a Joestar, whether he has the birthmark or the just regular star. Whether he has a star birthmark or no star birthmark, Jarno is a Joestar. Bruno still comes in. Be interesting to see how he does in a 3v1. I think Joseph and Caesar can make short work of him. As for what would also change, Joseph and Caesar may actually stick around to help. I think Caesar would 100% stick around. Joseph probably could as well. Kind of help his best friend out. Black Sabbath is also kind of dealt with fast. It's a niche fight. As for other stuff, I could see Jarno just basically kind of just not really doing much because the whole family thing. It's hard to say how Joseph and Jarno react to each other. Caesar and Joseph in part 5. It'd be easier to track down Diavolo's locations. I'm gonna say that. It would be easier to track down where the Squadro are and where enemies are. But I don't really know how that. But minus from that, they're not really the best for combat stands. They're not the best stands for combat, I'm trying to say. Like, Hermit Purple and Caesar's Bubble Purple. I'm gonna call it Hermit Bubble for the sake of the plot. Caesar and Joseph's Hermit Purple and Hermit Bubble would be easy to track down characters like Diavolo and the Squadro and the Elite Assassins and all that. But minus from that, it really wouldn't be that useful in combat. Like, unless they just wrap the Hermit Bubble or Hermit Purple around someone's head, squeeze it around their head, blast hamon through their head, insta kill. But minus from that, there's kind of no way to do that. As for other battles, well, we kind of go to the rest of the story. Everything's just going mostly the same until, we're gonna say, till the final fight of Diavolo, where Caesar and Joseph meet, and they kind of meet Polnareff and Iggy still. Like, that whole thing happens. As for what happens here, Caesar would probably have to stall for time. Joseph and Caesar not knowing anything about how time erasure would work, so they would kind of be in a struggle. I feel like Caesar would be able to save Polnareff from dying. He'd use his hermit bubble to wrap around with hamon on Polnareff and Iggy. Diavolo screams, "I'm generally angry with you," and then just kills him, kind of like with Trish. And the whole Coco Jumbo thing happens, but it would instead be Caesar dying, and he's the one possessing the turtle. Polnareff is now probably switch bodies with Joseph or Iggy. I feel like Joseph would switch bodies with Diavolo. I don't know. Hard to say how that would go. Joseph and Polnareff, or I don't know how. Iggy and Bruno, maybe? I don't know. I feel like for the sake of the plot, it's just a weird. I don't know. Silver Chariot Requiem is just a weird arc in general. Jarno would probably still get GER. Only thing is Polnareff is now human. Caesar's gonna be the turtle with Coco Jumbo. Joseph might actually also. I don't know. I think Joseph also would make sense going through it too. I don't know. The more I think about it, I think Joseph could be the one who dies and becomes Coco Jumbo, while Caesar actually dies and literally is dead. Because, like, if you remember, the whole thing with Joseph is he's always just too lucky to survive death. Like, Joseph is honestly always close to death, but somehow survives. So him becoming Coco Jumbo would kind of be one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know. I guess it's possible. Depends on how you view it. I don't see Joseph or Caesar ever returning after this. They're just in the turtle now. One of them's. I feel like Caesar's guaranteed to die. Joseph's debatable if Joseph Joseph could actually survive the events and just do something else, or he becomes the guy to possess Coco Jumbo instead, and Caesar just dies. I don't know. That's all the changes. Uh, Polnareff and Iggy are still alive, and in Iggy's case a little longer because he's probably gonna die from old age of dog years. Part 5 kind of goes the same, but a little bit easier. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, not as weird as part 4. It was kind of disgusting to see how that whole Joestar family thing goes. But part 5's a lot more interesting, with their Hermit Purples and Hermit Bubble to distract and kind of figure out some enemies where they're located. Really useful. Polnareff is not a turtle. Caesar or Joseph is a turtle. I don't know who would be. More than likely, I could see Caesar staying dead and Joseph being the one in the turtle, or Joseph is still alive and Caesar's the one possessing the turtle. It just depends on what you would have happen. I don't know. That point's just a debatable one. I'd probably have Joseph be the one in the turtle and Caesar stay dead. I don't know. It kind of fits Joseph's personality of just always finding a way to cheat death. Now possessing a turtle as his way to cheat death could be pretty funny. So, yeah, that's the whole ending of part 5. Now let's see what happens with part 6, shall we? Shall we see what happens to part 6, please? Alright, thanks. You're welcome, past me. Future me here, talking about part 6. Well, would kind of be similar to the whole horse what if, actually, at this point. Polnareff still kind of gets into the prison. Tenma's kind of doing the whole thing. There ain't no Josuke this time around, meaning that Tenma may actually not want to go, or he may go, but he may just have the Speedwagon Foundation. It may be one of those things where Speedwagon Foundation kind of needs to do something about it, like they're going to have to find some type of security measures to get him to be safe. I don't know. The Speedwagon Foundation would actually be more involved the more I think about it, if that's the case. Other changes, Kakuin would probably, I don't know, everything would go the same. What would Rosanna do in part 6? I do think she could make an appearance in part 6. I don't think she would fight. She's now a mother of Tenma, but she probably could help her son out. She might die, but I don't know. How would part 6 go and end? Yeah, I don't know. I could see multiple scenarios out of this. Just depends on what you think would happen. That's honestly what I could say best. Part 6, in conclusion, just kind of a unique ending. I don't know. Hope you enjoyed this video. The beginning half, like, it kind of felt good, but then, like, the later parts, you can kind of feel was pretty halved. Like, it was just kind of got half effort, and I kind of felt lazy, but then again, I don't know. I just can't really think of these changes for part 6 and 5. 5, I can think of some. Same with 4 and 3 and 2 and 1, but 6 is just kind of the same. Kind of like how in the whole horse what if, or I don't know, what would change? Poochie could still win. Poochie could fail a lot worse. Poochie could either fail pretty bad or Poochie could just fail a bunch of times worse. I don't know. Anyone could just get involved. It's weird. Part 6 in conclusion. Kind of weird ending. Thanks for watching. Weird video, and especially the part 4 stuff. Hope you enjoyed this kind of weird video. See you later. Sorry if I made this thing just... I don't know, I don't know how to explain my reaction to the final part, so I'm sorry. It's just pretty stupid reactions of just me going, confusedly, and just... I don't know. I can't really wrap my head around Joseph having an illegitimate son while Jonathan's still alive, and how that would work. Like, Joseph might actually marry Tomoko, and may actually have to raise a family with her, and Susie may actually have to get divorced. That's pretty dark. Uh, yeah, just I don't know. Giorno is still the boss of Pashio. Joseph being a turtle, or Caesar being a turtle, depending on what you want. I'm gonna stick with my Joseph as the turtle, and Caesar dying, or you can have Joseph survive and Caesar become a turtle. I think it just fits Joseph to be the turtle because the whole I'm too lucky to die thing. Part 6 just kind of goes the same as the whole horse what if, but the only thing is that whole horse is removed and Josuke is removed from it, and if you remove them, I guess Hermes is out of the injury. Hermes is still with her injury. Tenma actually might just be a part of Anasui's whole thing instead. Tenma could just be part of Anasui and Weather's whole thing instead. I don't know. Uh, Thanks for watching. See y'all later. Hope my next video isn't as awkward as this one. And goodbye for now.